All right, we've got the breaking news coming out of the special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe here that former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn pleading guilty to lying to the FBI about meetings with Russian officials. And the other piece of the breaking news is the fact that Jared Kushner, according to sources, Jared Kushner is the very senior member of the presidential transition team who directed Michael Flynn to have these contacts with the Russian ambassador. So let's just pause for a minute. Let's break down the timeline of events leading up to where we are here today. According to this court filing, Flynn talked to the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. That was back on December 22nd, asking him to delay or defeat a vote on a UN Security Council resolution regarding Israeli settlements. We just learned the Kushner news, right, that Jared Kushner was the one who directed him to make the call. Flash forward to the 29th of December. He talks to Kislyak again about the sanctions that the U.S. imposed on Russia and Russia's response to that. Those are the two conversations the FBI says Flynn lied to them about. And then, nearly a month later, the White House was still denying that there was anything inappropriate about those contacts.
I talked to General Flynn about this again last night. One call talks about four subjects. One was the loss of life that occurred in the plane crash that took their military choir. Two was Christmas and holiday greetings. Three was to facilitate or to talk about a conference in Syria on ISIS, and four was to set up to talk about after the inauguration, setting up a call between President Putin and President Trump.
Now, the day after we saw Sean Spicer there, so January 24th, that's when Flynn was interviewed by the FBI. And that's when he apparently lied. But he didn't resign until 3 weeks later after admitting he misled the vice president about these conversations with this Russian ambassador. This is what President Trump had to say about it at the time.
When I looked at the information, I said, I don't think he did anything wrong. If anything, he did something right. He was coming into office. He looked at the information. He said, that's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be, and he didn't just call Russia. He called and spoke to both ways. I think there were 30-some odd countries. He's doing the job. You know, he was just doing his job. The thing is, he didn't tell our vice president properly, and then he said he didn't remember. So either way, it wasn't very satisfactory to me.
Just a little context, Michael Flynn is the first person inside President Trump's administration to be reached by the Mueller investigation, and he says he is fully cooperating. Fareed Zakaria is here with me, host of Fareed Zakaria GPS, and just minutes before you sat down, everyone had been wondering, you know, that the list would be short as to who would be above the Michael Flynn on the food chain there in the transition team, and the news is in that it was Jared Kushner who directed him to make this call. Your response to that?
Well, it does seem now it's very clear that the Trump administration, really from the president on down, was trying to change policy toward Russia, was trying to in some way or the other assure the Russians that there would be a new policy, that perhaps sanctions would be lifted, that the United States was going to do things differently with them. The question, of course, remains unanswered, was this payback for something during the campaign? What we are listening to now is all these things that have happened after the campaign, after Trump is in office, when he's president, and he's surprisingly reaching out to the Russians and being nice to them. I mean, this is kind of, if you think about it, it's very odd for a president in his first few weeks in office not to reach out to our closest allies in Europe, to the Brits, people like that, the Chinese, the second largest economy in the world. No. There is concerted efforts made to reach out to the Russians and to suggest to them, we're going to be very nice to you, and here's what we want. So the question that we don't know is, why were they doing that? And this has always been the puzzle of the Trump campaign and presidency. Why this particularly benign attitude towards Russia?
What about the evolution of the defense then, right, in doing this? Initially, that they weren't really truly in touch, and it was about only, you heard Sean Spicer say X, Y, and Z, to now saying what? It was
well, it's important to point out that what Sean Spicer said was in fact lies. That was false.
Right.
The White House has repeatedly lied about this. Flynn lied to the FBI about it. As we now know, he's pleaded to a felony. So that itself raises the question, if there's nothing here, why is everybody lying, right?
Why does President Trump keep
why-
asking other people, Comey,
Right.
Burr, and the list on
Right.
down, to kill the investigation?
There's just a sort of exactly. There's a lot of smoke around this, and it's not entirely clear what's going on. There is a legitimate defense, I suppose, which is we were trying to have a strategic rapprochement with Russia. We were trying to do a reset, to use the word Hillary Clinton used when she was
The Russia
Secretary of
reset.
State. Fine. Then why lie about it? Why tell the FBI to stop looking into it? Why, that's the part that we still don't understand. What is this, how does this relate to this issue of Russian interference before the campaign, and are the two connected?
30 seconds. Now that we know, according to sources, it was Jared Kushner. What's the next big question?
Honestly, I don't think there is another big question, because if it's Jared Kushner,
We
it's
know.
essentially
That's
the
it.
president. I don't think you get closer to the president than Jared Kushner.